सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। वासुदेवेन्द्र योगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते। नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्। अथ चतुर्विंशतितत्त्वोत्पत्तिप्रकारं वक्ष्यामः। ब्रह्माश्रया सत्त्वरजस्तमो गुणात्मिका माया अस्ति। तत आकाशः सम्भूतः आकाशाद् वायुः वायोस्तेजः तेजस आपः अद्भ्यः पृथिवी। एतेषां पञ्चतत्त्वानां मध्ये आकाशस्य सात्त्विकांशात् श्रोत्रेन्द्रियं सम्भूतं वायोः सात्त्विकांशात् सात्त्विकेन्द्रियं सम्भूतं अग्निः सात्त्विकांशात् चक्षुरिन्द्रियं सम्भूतं जलस्य सात्त्विकांशात् रसनेन्द्रियं सम्भूतं पृथिव्याः सात्त्विकांशात् द्रोणेन्द्रियं सम्भूतं
घ्राणेन्द्रियं
सात्त्विकांशात् घ्राणेन्द्रियं सम्भूतम् एतेषां पञ्चतत्त्वानां समष्टि सात्त्विकांशात् बुद्ध्य अहंकार मनोबुद्ध्यहंकार चित्तान्तःकरणानि सम्भूतानि
चित्तान्तःकरणानि सम्भूतानि
चित्तान्तःकरणानि सम्भूतानि संकल्पविकल्पात्मकं मनः निश्चयात्मिका बुद्धिः अहंकर्ता अहंकारः चिन्तनकर्त्री चित्तम्
चिन्तनकर्त्री चित्तम्
चिन्तनकर्त्री चित्तम्।
Here again there is a spelling mistake. Ahankarta is correct.
मनसो देवता चन्द्रमाः बुद्धे ब्रह्मा हंकारस्य रुद्रः चित्तस्य वासुदेवः। एतेषां पञ्चतत्त्वानां मध्ये आकाशस्य राजसांशाद्वागीन्द्रियं सम्भूतं वायोः राजसांशात् पाणीन्द्रियं सम्भूतम् वाहनेः राजसांशात् पादेन्द्रियं सम्भूतम् जलस्य राजसांशात् उपस्थेन्द्रियं सम्भूतम् पृथिव्या राजसांशात् उदेन्द्रियं सम्भूतम् एतेषां समष्टिराजसांशात् पञ्चप्राणाः सम्भूताः एतेषां पञ्चतत्त्वानां मध्ये तामसांशात् पञ्चीकृत पञ्चतत्त्वानि भवन्ति पञ्चीकरणं कथमपि इति चेत् एतेषां पञ्चमहाभूतानां तामसांस्वरूपम् एकमेकं भूतं द्विधा विभज्य एकमेकमर्धं पृथक् तूष्णीं व्यवस्थाप्य अपरपरं अपरमपरमर्धं चतुर्धा विभज्य स्वाधर्मण्येषु अर्धेषु स्वभागचतुष्टयसंयोजनं कार्यम्
Very good.
एतेषां पञ्चमहाभूतानां तामसांस्वरूपम् एकमेकं भूतं द्विधा विभज्य एकमेकमर्धं पृथक् तूष्णीं व्यवस्थाप्य अपरमपरमर्धं चतुर्धा विभज्य स्वार्धमन्येषु अर्धेषु स्वभागचतुष्टयसंयोजनं कार्यम् तदा पञ्चीकरणं भवति एतेभ्यः पञ्चमहाभूतेभ्यः शरीरं भवति एवं पिण्ड ब्राह्मण how do we say this
Pinda Brahmandyoraikyam
sambhutam.
Very good, very good. Right. Practice definitely. You. This is where we are on the last portion of the Panchikaranam. We saw that from the Maya, which is Trigunatmika, the tamasic aspect of it is dividing itself. First, the 5 elements. The tamasic element of each of the 5 elements splits into halves. One half of each further splits into 4 parts. Next step is that each of the 4 divided parts goes and replaces the other 4 parts of the other elements, 4 elements. So in every element, in the crossified state, you have half of the original element and you have 4 other 1/8 part of the other 4 elements, and together that is called one element, which is the half main element. So space example would be, if Akasha is the first element divided into two, the first part of the Akasha, which is half now, and the other 1/8 each, 4 parts that have been divided. So this element is now going to be called Akasha, space. So that half which is predominant is determining the name of that element. That is its main characteristic that it is going to express itself as. These elements, further now, he says, entire gross world, the elements have now become contactable, are now experienceable, because each element, having undergone Panchikaranam, has now, in combination with the other elements, representing itself to be perceived in unison with the Antakaranam. That means the grossification will allow the multiplicity of the experiences, and yet it can be perceived as one experience with combination of the different sense experiences. Each will be registered in combination. The place where it will be registered together can now be registered because of Panchikaranam. It opens up the experiential avenue. Then Tada Panchikaranam Bhavati. Once the 5 elements have undergone, subtle elements have undergone grossification, etebhya panchikrit pancha mahabhutebhyah. These are the 5 mahabhutas now. The total space, total air, total fire, total water, total earth, which is contactable. So they are pancha mahabhutas. What are they doing? Sthula shariram bhavati. They are now actually giving the physicality. Sthula sharir. They are making the sthula sharir. So the entire gross body is grossified 5 elements. If you go back again now, the total of subtle elements, Maya, Trigunatmika, not contactable, not experienceable, by itself not traceable, because you don't know it exists. You can't contact it, you don't know it exists. So then what is the purpose of it? Maya has been introduced for us to see how the creation has come about, so that we can take the reverse process and trace it all back into what? Into Maya. And Maya is non-separate, inseparable to Brahman, and Maya has all its powers of changing and becoming this world because of the power that has come, lent from Brahman, the enlivening Brahman. This enlivener as Brahman, in the presence of which Maya has undergone all these transformations, the creation has been told to us so that we can trace it back also. Now, there will be certain subtle aspects to be grasped now. In this Panchikaranam process, if you observe, we were talking all about totality. Maya, Trigunatmikam, so the pure space element, Sattvic element has contributed to Jnanendriyas of space. Space, Sattvic element of space has contributed to, of all the 5 elements, has contributed to the 5 Jnanendriyas, and together the Sattvic element has contributed to Antakaranam. Now the minute we hear this, we almost feel it, we are talking about the individual. But here, since the topic is Jagat, the whole process means wherever there are Jnanendriyas, It means all Gyanendriyas have come from this source. This is the way in which all Gyanendriyas have come. Similarly, all Karmendriyas, all Pranas, and now all Sthula Shariram. So from the 5 elements, the Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic elements together have formed the animate, inanimate Jagat. The Gyanendriya and the Karmendriya along with Antakaranam are giving sentiency, the vibrancy, the notion of life. And just the mere Sthula Sharira part is what is inert. It exhibits as expression of manifestation, but not as an expression of life, active. You don't see it as undergoing change the way in which a living organism changes. In this manner, Sthula Shariram has been formed. Which Sthula Shariram? Totality Sthula Shariram. And now you have to see the connection in the next slide. Evam, in this manner, Pinda Brahmanda aikyam, Pinda Brahmanda yoho, but take it as Pinda Brahmanda aikyam sambhutam. Aikyam means equation, oneness. Pinda here means the individual body. Pinda always refers to the small, microcosm. This is a Pinda. Anda is the germinating sthan. Pinda means here personalized, individual, cross body, individual antakaranam, individual Gyanendriya, Karmendriya, Pranas. Now Pinda is this which has come from this. But also the totality has come, which is called as Brahmanda. Brahmanda. This Brahman, that's why the physical world, whenever we refer to universe, one of the words is Brahmand. This creation is referred to as Brahmand. Brahmand means the entire expression of creation, whether we call it just this galaxy, this universe, or we go on discovering as many universes, whatever will form in a physical perception is a part of Brahmand. Whatever we contact as physical world is Brahmand. Aikyam. Now in this manner, if you go backwards and reflect, the minute you see this as a whole chart and a model, you realize that this division of the individual and the world seems to have dissolved. This gross body has the same origin as the world and its cross bodies. The cross body's emergence, rooted, is one. So the division has broken. There is no, actually speaking, this body, if you follow the whole thought flow systematically and are able to reflect a little bit on it, you realize that your ownership of the body drastically diminishes, because now you realize the body is nothing but elements. And which elements? That also ones that have undergone crossification. The entire Sthula Shariram, which I am calling as me, I, the text is going to take that portion further now. But here, first attention is Pinda Brahmanda aikyam drishti. It's a drishti. So supposing later on when we really get more practiced with meditations and all that, this is one of the meditations that can be done. This comes in one of the last stages of meditations. Pinda Brahmanda aikyam dhyanam. That there is oneness, because now with all this intellectual knowledge, I can appreciate. But that appreciation of the intellectual vision is actually convertible into reflective mode where there is a dissolution of the ownership of my body. How can I say this as my body any further when I know it is made up of 5 elements? And I don't create the 5 elements. I, as individual that I see myself, I am not the creator of the 5 elements. I am not even the creator of the body. This body. How did I get the body? I just found myself with the body. I don't know from where the body has come. However much we now understand the entire process of fertilization and everything doing together, the building of the body forms much before the individual is seen. That means the movement of the body comes later. The movement in the body has happened at a much later stage. The grossification of the body had started much earlier. Now this, as grown-up inquirer of truth, you start appreciating that where is this body really so holding our vision in ourselves as a sense of reality, when actually speaking it truly is. If you accept the model, if you don't accept the model, nothing happens in the buddhi. No shake-up happens. You know, when you are children and sometimes adults give us a shake-up. What is that shake-up meaning? You know, shake you up means तुम्हारी सोच को वो हिला देता है. You know, your parents want to shake you up, kind of a thing. Your teachers want to shake you up. It means make you change your thinking. If you don't accept the model, the chance of you seeing what it holds in its understanding and how it opens the vision of loosening your grip on what you call as my body. That element of it is taken care of by understanding that this microcosm's birth and the macrocosm's birth is seated in the same place. There is no distinction between micro and macro. In fact, the closer perception gets us that I just stop realizing this body as a separate thing from creation. As much as I see everything in creation, I see the body as a part of the creation. It is not separated. I understand, but there is a distance in our thinking. There is no alignment there if we are not reflecting on this. What is the alignment that takes place after this? That my vision gets established at the notion that this body is temporary for me. It's exactly like how you would say when you take a house on rent, you're a tenant there. When you take a house on rent, you realize that this is rented. You can never claim ownership on it. However many years you may have a lease for, 99 years, older buildings or a lot of 99 years lease means this family is allowed to live here for 99 years. But the minute 99 years are over, rightfully you have to exit from there. It is no longer yours. In the same way, these elements have brought about what is called the structure. Outer body is the structure. And you house it everywhere. There are houses and houses and houses. It is everywhere. Wherever there is a body, it is a structure provided by the elements. That is it. This is also one of them. There is a short-term lease that has happened when there is life exhibited here. For whose sake, for what, and this more one reflects is where one becomes a greater and greater student of Vedanta in the real sense. This short lease of life that I have here in this body, if I can also sustain the vision that 5 elements, short time, what a huge change to how I contact the body and life and people around and world and how I interact. So all this last sentence is what is very important, because this is now going to set the main topic that comes in Vedanta is Mahavakyam. The text has finished establishing the individual is Atman. Now it has established that this actual feeling of the individual is to be addressed separately. But the entire physical universe is one, which includes your gross body also. The whole thing is just one. And to establish this vision, there is a little exercise that let us see if we can do and see. What do you see here?
A glass and container.
Yes. Now?
Spoon.
Now?
Spoon and a fork. Salad set.
Now?
Mortar and pestle.
Right. Correct? All four of them. See, our first vision, this is very, very important now. Be a little alert. All four of them, when I asked, what is it? Our immediate cognition of what it is went to its form and its name. This is going to be only one-time exercise. You won't, because once you know this, something changes. Your first, if you have observed it, instantly our attention has gone to its name and form, because that is what has occupied us as a reality. That is only its function, based on the function. Now you translate this into the world. When I'm perceiving the world, I'm perceiving in terms of names and forms. I'm perceiving them as objects. Even people, really speaking, are objects. This we understand at a much later stage through some Upanishadic prakriyas. People are also objects. That is why half the world is suffering, that nobody treats them like a human being, etc., etc. Because nobody can treat nobody else as a human being, because you're perceived as an object. However much animation I am showing, your understanding, however much you know I'm alive and tomorrow I'll be dead, but in spite of all that, the perception, just as over here we said this is a glass and then a stool and etc. The vision is what you have to be careful. The minute we say it is this, we are only identifying with the structure. And that structure we have got a very firm notion of, because of there is a sense of reality around that because of its utility. Now the second question is, what really is it made of? If I have to redo the whole thing again and you have to restart from the previous, I don't know if I can do this, I may go forward. If you have to restart, supposing this first one's image, and my question was, what is it made of?
Wood.
The second one?
Wood.
Third? Wood. Fourth? Wood. And the minute you have seen it with what it is made of, you have to observe yourself when you now see it in world. The minute you say what it is made of, for that moment, the name and form distinction was dissolved. Your mind can only hold one of the two at a time. You have, the minute you said it is made of wood, you observe yourself that it is a glass, and this distinction that was exciting the mind because of the differences that you saw there, the minute you see them as wood, there is something that has resolved in you with reference to that perception. This is wood, this is wood, this is wood, this is wood. When you say all of it is wood, the differentiations are resolved. You have to observe this. That no longer is Not that you have forgotten that it is not a stool or it is not a mortar and pestle, etc. You will not mistake one for the other, because your attention will draw back to the function and you will use it for the function. But for that time, the minute the perception is, this is wood. What is this? Wood. What is this? Wood. What is this? Wood. Now, what are all these wood? And now multiply everything you see that is made of wood. A desk, a chair. What is wood coming from?
Plant.
Plant, tree. Where is tree coming from?
Seed, earth.
Earth. Element. Which earth are we talking about? Ossified. The earth that has sprouted the seedling into the tree, and that tree's entire bark, yes, the whole bark and everything is nothing taken off wood, and wood planks of wood broken further according to. Look at the level of potential creation possible. This is one element. Wood is holding the potential of everything further that you want to divide it into. Whatever according to your utility. It has all come from the same seed. Now the same exercise, what is this?
The kettle.
Kettle. What is this?
Cane.
What is this?
Camel.
And what are all of them made of?
Not a metal.
Metal.
And where is iron?
In the earth as an
Absolutely.
element.
It's an element in the earth. Now, the minute you are seeing it in terms of names and forms, these are all individuals. They seem to be individually existing. A stool is separate from a kettle. They are two individuals. The minute you start multiplying or start seeing it, it's called synthesis. Start doing the synthesis. Try to find the common grounds between the two, between a stool and a kettle. When you start seeing what is a common ground between, point is common ground. What is that which is common between a stool and a kettle? हम कितना भी कोशिश कर लेंगे, if you do not have Vedanta knowledge, it will be impossible to draw a common ground up to the point that Vedanta takes us. Earth tak we can start from.
Yeah.
But
They
later
both
on,
come from the earth.
sorry,
They both come from the earth.
they both come from. But later on, we'll start seeing. Here you have to see the previous sentence. Pinda Brahmanda aikyam. These are all sthula. They're all gross. They're all contactable. And yet, of the gross world, our vision is inert and distinct in its manifestation. This is all each. You
Could you
cannot say
repeat
they're
that?
not independent. You cannot say they are not individual. Individual, not in the sense they are not entity. It is now in creation. It has got created. The wood and the spoon and the fork, the salad set is created. Come what may. It was a log of wood. It's very fascinating to see, when especially when you're that artistic realm, sculptors, artists, potters, even the architect, anything that involves a little bit of designing, and you find this fascination. If you're a painter and you hold a blank canvas in front of you, it's fascinating to see the possibilities that can be created. And what is actually the process of creation? The minute you draw the first, supposing it's a canvas and I've given a background color, have I not limited it now? As a blank canvas, it held limitless possibilities of creation. The minute I gave it a color at the background, I have reduced its possibility, but it is still open for so much more. That little background color is Maya. It is still open for everything. Coming, the background of it will remain. That color, however many layers of color I put it, that color is not disappearing. I may, over my layers of coloring, not see it visibly, but it is giving its influence to everything that is coming afterwards. But that background layer that I have given came on a plain canvas, colorless canvas, absolutely holding infinite potential. That is Brahman in the example. And now how each of them that you start drawing, you are now limiting the canvas. With every layer of, you draw, supposing it's a landscape, and you have to first say, supposing you've given the tree to give its, what was it called? The skyline, and to give it its layers. That's the skyline. That to give it the depth, you have to give it the infinity where the lines have to meet, and then this is the earth. When you've started doing all of that, you've started a creation, and as beautiful as it starts emerging, that much defined it is, that much limited it is. So all of this, if it is perceived as individual objects, the exercise that a Vedantic student undertakes is, let me find out the common ground. Is it really so disconnected from each other? Is the wood stool disconnected from each other? And this is where your internal maturity alone makes you a Vedantic student. No amount of intellectual appreciation of knowledge can make you a Vedantic student beyond having heard it. Because what is the connection you will make between the wood stool and iron kettle? I can place a kettle on a wood stool, somebody can say. I can sit on the wood stool and pour my tea from the iron kettle. Some sort of connection you can make. But is that the connection that is really connecting the two? Is that called a connection? And that is where that intellect, that whole faculty to think in the right direction is so primary and important to now start converging. What is the source of creation? Can they really be two sources of, say, kettle has come from one source and a stool has come from another source? If you start finding the background, can you really say that, stools have different mother and kettle has a different mother? If you have to find the origin of it, you'll have to find its common platform. Now this is where the inert world is. Now start seeing. What about people? These are all bodies, 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 bodies. What are these? Otherwise called animals as species. They are different from these, supposed to be different. All different bodies. We see them as bodies, 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 bodies. All the body that the human world is comprised of, where does it come from? What is the common source between an animal body and a human body? Birds. And what variety? This diagram, actually, if you see it full screen, you will be in awe. What a beautiful picture this is of such varieties of birds that we'll never be able to capture them also. Such fine differences, such beautiful expressions of creation, colorful expressions of creation. Insects. What are all these? Are all what? What you can see is gross body. Tool, kettle, people, animals, birds, insects. Is this all creation? What about the entire fauna? All trees, all vegetation, all forests, flowers. All this is sthula shariram. The totality of this is what we are calling as world. But in our minds, they are divided, just as that stool was divided from the fork and the spoon. We are looking at it with a sense of division because we are trained that way. The most superficial aspect of our attention holds only the divisive attention. It's divisive. This flower is different from that flower, and that's why it's attentive. Now, all the flowers of the same color, am I looking at each one of them distinctly? We don't. Why is this so standing out? Because there's a yellow and a purple and a white and a pink and a red, blah, 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 blah. But each white is different from the other white. Or each purple is different from the other purple. But what is bringing our attention is the differences. They're different, and that brings the attention. When you see the commonality, the distinction starts to dissolve. Because all purples now I have put into one category, I'm looking for the other one. Ah, there is a pink. So all pinks I have put into one group, now there's a yellow. Whatever makes it stand out as different from the others is what we are qualifying as creation. This whole Jagat universe, and it is a beautiful expansion of the mind. All this goes into another form of meditation also. This whole Brahmanda is nothing but what you perceive, contact. This Sthula Sharir is non-separate from everything that is Sthul out here in the world. Sthul is the right word. English is gross, but gross has another meaning. Gross, that sort of a meaning. And that's why not a very... the world is not gross. The world is beautiful. It's the physical, the Sthula is what is pointed out. It's the physicality. And why physicality? Because now this physical body, the Sthula body, is contactable by all the elements. Each one had become the cause of the next. By the time you come to earth, whatever is in earth can be contacted by all the 5 elements. You can smell. Absolutely. So the minute you focus, in fact, that is absolutely correct. The minute you focus on the differences is where the Ragadvesh begins. But that we will take up as if that's going to confuse the topic completely. Here the topic is beginning to resolve the Pinda Brahmanda, seeing that this body is different from that body. And that is why many times in the past also I have always said, our own schooling gives us a lot of scope for development of vichar. And when you start seeing the specialization, especially in medicine, and it's fascinating to know that when you were first sick, if someone's had the opportunity to first time see a corpse split, you study it. You study the human body, say, from within. It's cut in front of you. The person had a name before, had an identity before, and now is split open, bare, completely from the inside. And you are told where is the heart and where is the kidney and where are the lungs and where is what and where is what and where is, and when you do the anatomy, it's a mind-boggling exposure. Which vessel goes from where and over which muscle goes over it and which nerve. It's so detailed, the human study is. And of course, for all other branches I'm talking. But the point here is how much specialization goes into it at each level. The more you are separating it, specializing it, that Pinda, this body, the reflection is the amount of reality I hold as myself around the gross body. I am the gross body. This is my body. If you have the right understanding of this, what is it that changes? If this much has been understood, even understood for now, the more deeper you keep understanding it, what is it that is changing?
Even the gross body is actually coming from subtle elements.
Yes, correct. Gross body is coming from subtle elements, absolutely.
And all gross bodies are coming from that same subtle element.
Source, correct, subtle elements, right? What else is changing in the vision?
So when you say that we are Brahman, right? So that means all of us stand as one. So same elements, same everything is the same. So it is easier to actually associate to that vision of all of us being Brahman.
Absolutely, which is actually the change in the attitude that starts happening. When there is a dissolution of division taking place, that division is what you will call as ego later on. When there is a dissolution of division taking place, automatically there is a change in attitude. Like, for example, a group of people living as a family. The minute you say my family, is your attitude not different to that family? They're a group of people. Before you got married, where was your partner and where were you? My fascinating reflection always. Like, some few years we didn't even know the existence of the other person. And one day you tie the knot, and thereafterwards creation has changed. The world can never be the same, for good or for bad. But it has changed. And now that it has changed, what has actually changed? Mine. That division has reduced. And then it is children and etc. The more it starts encompassing, the more the attitude changes. And what is that change of attitude? It's not a forced change. It's not something you practiced. It just sprouted because you see oneness. You don't see it separate. This is where a Vedic study evolves human perception. How we were able to see everything under one umbrella. And to us, doesn't matter. To us, I'm saying, when I say us again, I'm differentiating. The only difference why that is being happening is because the minute you have the Vedic view, the dissolution of religions, the dissolution of species, the dissolution of everything happens under it. Even the religions dissolve for you. But when they are pointed as different, that's where suddenly the difference has to be brought up. So what is it that is Sthula Shariram? There was another picture that I was trying to see. The entire galaxy Yeah, and that video that once we mentioned about up, 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 go to the highest point. From there, where are you in creation? And then that video again telescopes down, to your locality, to your house, blah, 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 blah. So go into that low level and rise to that high level. The higher you rise in your perception, the lesser the differences will actually exist for you. They dissolve. Now at that level of the forest, where are all those chota 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 chota? There will be hundreds and billions of life forms here itself in this small square feet of a forest. Sthula Shariram is common elements. Whole creation is one. So where does this gross body come from? Should there be a doubt now to anybody? Where does the gross body come from?
Maya.
Finally, Maya. Yes. This gross body, okay, better question. What is the gross body made up of?
5
Elements. Are you the elements?
No.
Are you the elements? And that is now going to become the question. That if all this is matter, evolution, where is the I in it? How is the I correct elements? Where is the I? In all of this, if supposing the stool were to get the arrogation, now look, everything can be retraced. It depends totally on your own intelligence and your own jnana now. If the stool were to imagine, if the stool were to develop an arrogation of itself, of having identification with the stool, what is the stool going to say? What am I?
Useful thing in the world.
Sorry?
The stool will probably say, I'm the most useful thing in the world. Mere bina duniya nahi chalegi, and this and that.
True. And what not? The biggest thing, the stool, if it were to have the sense of arrogation, stool is 5 elements. Let me just repeat this again. Stool is the predominant of the earth element. But stool also has the other 4 elements in it in its small measure. So stool is also heard and touched and felt and etc. etc. Seen and all that stuff. Now stool doesn't seem to own itself up as I am a stool. This body here is also same 5 elements. But there is someone who is saying, I am Deepti. If the stool was to have that self-awareness and the self-consciousness, what would the stool say? I am stool. And then there were many stools. So it cannot just say I am a stool. So I am this. That stool would have said I am Deepti. उसका भी एक नाम होता है फिर क्योंकि इतने सारे स्टूल हैं तो उसका भी उसका नाम. Now, is there a difference? What is the difference that has come about? The stool cannot arrogate I am a stool. This body is same elements as the stool, and yet there is someone sitting here arrogating I am Deepti. That first layer of creation model, and as I have said before, I don't remember here or where, but the reason for the creation model is not to specify this is how it has come, but to emphasize that what we are seeing is actually mithya. And that's the bridge of understanding, the leap in understanding that one makes. that what I'm seeing here, the stool doesn't have an arrogation that I'm a stool. But if this is also the body, I have an arrogation, I am the body. This is me. And I do all those things to keep this. Imagine. Stool doesn't even know how many layers of dust it has accumulated if nobody dusts it. But here I am. And even a little thing and crazy it becomes. If my body has a little change that, and it is changing, Shadvikara. Remember Atma and Atma? So this portion completes itself to first establish the evolution of creation. It's a model. There'll be slight differences in different Upanishads only because we don't want to sit with one model, because, excuse me, any model you take, there'll be many models because it's an infinite expanse. You can pick up any thread and it'll become a model. So with this, we will end. Now he will start with what is the next topic, which we'll do tomorrow, which is the Mahavakya. This one Sthula Sharira Abhimani is the Jiva Namakam. He calls himself as a Jiva, whereas a stool is not got the Abhiman, so is not a Jiva. He doesn't have the Abhiman that I am the stool. But I have an Abhiman that I am this body. And Abhiman, just don't take it as a pride thing. It's the ownership. Abhiman, man, we all know. It can be taken as pride. Yeah, just a belief. Manna. उसको मानना कि मैं ये हूँ, शरीर हूँ. स्टूल को नहीं है ये, ठान नहीं है, मान नहीं है कि मैं स्टूल हूँ. So stool is not a jiva. Look at a giraffe. Does the giraffe have the abhiman कि मैं giraffe हूँ? Yes, correct. Even a giraffe. That's why I showed the entire animal world, insect world, plants would not have that arrogation that I am this, but more living and moving. Wherever there is a self-awareness expressed, and a very important point this is, wherever there is self-awareness expressed and lack of knowledge of what is the nature of that self-awareness makes you identify with the body. This is an important to be noted. Wherever there is a self-expression, self-cognition, self-awareness expressed was the words. Wherever there is self-awareness expressed and you do not know the nature of the awareness, that self-awareness, but natural, joins with what is available, which is matter realm. And in unison to that, it expresses through that. And so concludes falsely, I am the body. So this jiva, sthula sharira abhimani, jiva namakam, uska naam ho gaya, namakaran ho gaya. So it doesn't matter whether I'm Deepti or that's a giraffe, हम दोनों का नामकरण हो गया है, हम दोनों हैं जीव. Because giraffe अपने level पे कहता है कि I am a giraffe. In fact, a giraffe is got so much self-awareness also. As much as I express his self-awareness, there is no difference. Giraffe also suffers. Giraffe also has the pain of losing its young, has the hunger, has thirst, has heat, has elemental suffering. Same things that happen over here happens there also. But the difference is the expression of self-awareness that is there has compounded here enough that I can know that I don't know. And that is the first sign of knowledge. And that's where human beings become different. We started our learning by knowing that I don't know. Human being has evolved in his learning because he understood that he doesn't know and he goes about, and that's what keeps forming better and better upadhi. So I'll stop here and we'll take this up now. That I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to connect it the same way yet tomorrow, but I'll just finish that sentence now. That self-awareness, which I do not know the nature of that awareness, that I do not know is called avidya. I'm expressing self-awareness. I'm self-conscious. I'm aware of myself. I don't have to be aware of anything else. I'm aware of myself, but I don't know the nature of this awareness. Not knowing the nature of awareness is avidya. And that is what is making me identify with the sthula, sukshma, karana, sanghata, this whole anatma realm. Because that awareness is atma, I don't know. And in fact, I should not have brought that sentence. Because fact is, let's just live with this for now and try and see the truth of this. Do I know the nature of my awareness? Where do I place that awareness? I keep saying I'm aware, I am hungry, I am thirsty, I am angry, I am blah, 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 blah. But that awareness, where is the nature of that awareness coming from? If we just sit with it, that's why we don't need too many answers in Vedanta, because somehow we all jump to the real answer. The prakriya is what we miss out on because it's that which helps us grow. That awareness, its nature, I don't know from where it's coming. I don't know what its nature is. And that is simply called a word avidya because I don't know. And that I don't know the nature of awareness is avidya. And the rest we will do tomorrow.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां फलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति